Hi, VencoreWeather.com, meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Friday, January 13th. Big changes today following the passage of an Arctic cold frontal system. Yesterday featured some record or near record warmth in the I-95 corridor. New York City Central Park, for example, broke a record. Philadelphia did not quite reach the record. The record was quite high, 72 degrees, set way back in 1890. We got well up into the 60s in southeastern Pennsylvania. All of that warm air is gone. The passage in the last few hours of an Arctic front from the north to the south, all backed up by a very strong building high-pressure system, an Arctic high-pressure system building to our north. We've been talking about this all week in the sense that it will cause some problems for the weekend as some moisture will push in late tonight, early tomorrow morning, and especially down across the D.C. metropolitan region. There can be some ice buildup on Saturday, more likely in the form of snow north of the Mason-Dixon line in southeastern Pennsylvania, for example. By the time you get up to New York City, you'll be on the very northern edge of this precipitation, and they may only see some light snow later tomorrow night. Not a big problem at all for the New York City metro region. The biggest problem, again, can end up being around the D.C. metro region, where not only the highest precipitation amounts are likely on Saturday into Saturday night, but more than likely the predominant precipitation type will be freezing rain. And that, of course, in this particular circumstance is kind of the what you don't hope for. You'd rather see snow. And again, in southeastern Pennsylvania, snow will tend to dominate, although there can be some sleet and freezing rain in southeastern Pennsylvania as well later tomorrow into tomorrow night. Well, first let's start off with the surface map here, looking at the isobar pattern. These black lines represent lines of equal pressure isobars, and the wind tends to flow parallel. And here we go with a north to northwest wind now dominating in the I-95 corridor. Again, a frontal system has gone through from the north to the south, and all of this is backed up by strong Arctic high pressure that will continue to edge its way into the northeastern U.S. over the next 12 hours or so, and that is the key to any problems that we may have on Saturday. It has replaced yesterday's warm air mass, cold, dry air. Temperatures tonight could actually drop way down into the 20s when you're in areas north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, and certainly down to near 30 degrees, maybe even the upper 20s in and around the D.C. metro region. A cold air mass indeed is moving in right now on pretty stiff north to northwest winds. Well, this is a 24-hour temperature change map from the Penn State eWall site. All these blues and purples represent a big drop in temperatures compared to yesterday morning at this time. And again, yesterday temperatures soared to the 60s in southeastern Pennsylvania, to 70 and above in the D.C. metro region, reached a record high at Central Park. All of that replaced by north to northwest winds today. Arctic air moving into the region right now, and temperatures have already dropped significantly in the last few hours from the 50s into the 40s. They'll hold steady or continue to drop slowly over the next several hours, despite plenty of sunshine. It's already very sunny in the Philadelphia and New York City metro regions. Clouds in D.C. will give way shortly to sunshine, but despite that sunshine, temperatures will hold steady or even continue to drop slowly over the next several hours. Well, now that we have Arctic air moving back into the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City, we're looking upstream for potential moisture, and indeed, here's an area of moisture over the Midwest that is going to ride right along that frontal system that just passed through our region. Will stall out right in this region right here. It will pretty much grind to a halt. Here's the frontal system, and this disturbance will ride right along that frontal boundary zone over the next 12 to 24 hours, spreading precipitation into the D.C. region late tonight. By daybreak tomorrow, there should be a wintry mix of sleet, freezing rain, perhaps even some snow already in the D.C. metro region. By the mid to late morning hour, there can be some snow moving into southeastern Pennsylvania. And again, once you get north of the Mason-Dixon line, where falls tomorrow primarily in the form of snow, although there can be some sleet and freezing rain mixed in, perhaps a coating to an inch or so across southeastern Pennsylvania, interior sections of New Jersey. That's a coating to an inch or so of snow and ice. Meanwhile, down in D.C., certainly can expect a glazing of ice, untreated surfaces, road surfaces certainly that are untreated will become quite slippery. You'll see some ice build up on trees and bushes as well during the day. Again, predominantly freezing rain, although it can start out as some snow and sleet, and certainly sleet can mix in at times in the D.C. metro region during the day and tomorrow night. But again, the most precipitation amounts will be in the D.C. metro region as far as the I-95 corridor region is concerned, and temperatures there will allow for more ice than snow, more snow than ice north of the Mason-Dixon line. Well, let's walk through last night's GFS model run. This is the 0Z GFS model run. All these maps from tropicaltidbits.com. We'll look at 6-hour increments beginning with this evening, Friday evening, and by this evening, precipitation in the form of rain heading into the southwestern part of West Virginia. Still dry in the I-95 corridor region. Notice the pattern of the isobars here, kind of a kink forming in the isobar pattern. This is indicative of what we refer to as cold air damming, where high pressure up to the north sends cold Arctic air onto the eastern side of the Appalachian Mountains. Once that air arrives, it's cold, it's dense, it remains stuck in the low-lying valleys east of the Appalachian Mountains, which of course ride up along the central part of Pennsylvania, for example. So that sets the stage for the cold air, and once moisture moves in, you have some trouble. It'll be certainly in the form of frozen precipitation this time of the year with such a strong Arctic high to the north. Well, here's the forecast map. 6 hours later, we're talking about 1 a.m., shortly after midnight tonight. Precipitation already moving into the western part of Virginia. Here's D.C. right in this region right here. After midnight and before daybreak, a wintry mix should arrive in the D.C. metro region, perhaps a combination of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. Purples here represent frozen precipitation, and pinks frozen precipitation. The purple more sleet variety, the pinks more the freezing rain variety. Green, meanwhile, plain rain, but again, right on the doorstep of the D.C. metro region. Again, this is a forecast map for 1 a.m. So I expect in the wee hours of the morning, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, a wintry mix arrives in D.C. Now, 6 hours later, here's the forecast map for early tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Can be a brief period of snow in D.C. before the changeover to sleet and freezing rain. Again, there can be an ice buildup on untreated road surfaces during the day on Saturday and into tomorrow night. Certainly can see some ice buildup on trees and bushes as well. But again, perhaps a brief beginning as snow and then a wintry mix in D.C. by daybreak Saturday. Still dry early tomorrow morning across southeastern Pennsylvania. And here is that strong Arctic high that has pushed eastward by this time across the Great Lakes into the northeastern U.S. Well, by about midday on Saturday, early afternoon, the snow has moved north of the Mason-Dixon line again, primarily in the form of snow here across southeastern Pennsylvania, expected on Saturday. Can certainly be some sleet and even some freezing rain mixed in, but primarily in the form of snow. Meanwhile, down across D.C., still temperatures not far from freezing. Some sleet, freezing rain, primarily in the form of freezing rain during the midday and afternoon hours. Again, an icy buildup on untreated road surfaces, and certainly can be some buildup of ice on some trees and bushes. Let's now jump ahead another 6 hours. And here's the forecast map for tomorrow evening. By this time, again, snow has advanced north and east, but notice not much being produced here according to the GFS model run as far north as the New York City metro region. I do believe that is what can be expected tomorrow, that precipitation amounts certainly look higher in D.C., then less in Philadelphia, and even less, per little, if any, reaching New York City. Certainly what makes it to New York City, if anything, will be in the form of snow, but don't expect much at all snow in the New York City metro region. Meanwhile, primarily snow across southeastern Pennsylvania, interior sections of central and southern New Jersey. Some sleet, freezing rain could mix in again. A coating to an inch or so in this region right here, and a glazing of ice in the D.C. metro region on Saturday into Saturday night. Finally, let's end with this. This is the forecast map for late tomorrow night, early Sunday morning, about 1 o'clock in the morning. Precipitation moving out by that time. There certainly can be some residual light freezing rain in and around D.C., especially in that frontal boundary zone. Still remains at this time, so there could be additional moisture riding along that frontal boundary zone into Sunday across the D.C. metro region, but certainly the cold Arctic winds out of the north to northwest will continue into Sunday. It stays cold on Sunday as well. We do get much milder again by the middle part of next week, and we could be getting ready by then for the much coveted January thaw that typically arrives here in the Mid-Atlantic region during the month of January. It could be a several-day period of above normal temperatures beginning by the middle part of next week and going for several days beyond that. Pattern does look like it'll get cold again by the end of the month. So, Arctic air has moved into the region, much colder today compared to yesterday. A wintry mix arrives in D.C. late tonight and continues throughout the day tomorrow in the D.C. metro region, primarily as freezing rain. An ice buildup is quite likely, especially in untreated road surfaces and trees and bushes. Some slippery travel conditions. In Philadelphia, southeastern Pennsylvania, interior central New Jersey, primarily in the form of snow arriving late morning, perhaps midday hours on Saturday. Again, primarily in the form of snow north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, perhaps a coating to an inch or so. There can be some sleet and freezing rain mixed in. New York City, very little, if any, precipitation makes it that far north and east. Whatever does make it that far north and east should be in the form of snow. That's it for now. Meteorologist Paul Dorian for Vencore.